Bill's defining traits were he could get you to love him, and he was just a people person.
His main mission in life was to help people. He wanted people to connect. He wanted them to communicate.
He knew how important relationships were, and he went out of his way to make everybody feel like they were very important to him.
He thought of others and he cared, and it was important for him to do what he felt was right.
Bill, growing up on the farm in Iowa, when he transferred up to Nyack outside Mason City, Iowa, he became an administrator, but he still taught a couple courses. I know they had a program where they worked with local businesses. And there's where he first came into contact with Performax's personal profile, which was the DISC assessment. And he fell in love with it. And at some point he had an aha moment of he wanted to analyze farmers.
And I'll never forget the first one we drove in, and he started pointing things out. He said, look at brand new John Deere tractor. Now look at the rest of the farm. And it was chaos. It was crap all over. He said, yeah, low C, high D. And I thought, how do you know this stuff? And we would go farm after farm, and he would look at another one. And another one I remember, we drove in, there were hollyhocks lining the drive all the way up. And we got into the yard, everything was meticulous. It was white picket fence. He said, meticulous. When we deal with a sale with this person, we're going to have to answer all the questions and be very precise and make sure that we listen to meeting their needs.
And then at some point, he decided he would leave Performax and create his own network.
Hi, I'm Bill Bonnstetter, Chairman of the Board of TTI Performance Systems, and my good friend John Butler asked me to make a few statements about the business we're in and the things we do. We're in the business of transforming people's way of thinking.
Early in my career, my dad and I owned 4 truck tire retreading franchises across the state of Michigan. The brand was called Bandag. Muscatine, Iowa is where they were based. And when Bill and I were getting to know each other, and I found out he was from Iowa, I said, oh, have you ever heard of Bandag? He said, yeah, of course, they were one of my clients. He used to go do disc programs for them, and we were one of their customers. So in a way, we were benefiting from what he was doing with TTI before we even knew about TTI.
We wanted to grow the business. We went to the Iowa State Lottery Commission and applied for a loan. They came back and said that we needed to pursue other avenues. So Bill's famous quote is, we took I-35 South and 80 West. Before we did that, I lived in San Diego for a while. My mom lived there, and I had visited friends in the Phoenix area. And so I told him he should go to those 2 cities. And so he flew to both cities, met with the Chamber of Commerce in both. He decided Scottsdale was it. The change of venue did help us.
The partners loved Bill. They respected him. They were always bringing to him new ideas that they wanted to pursue with Bill's help. The industry of assessments, Bill had a big impact on that. TTI became one of the leaders in assessments when assessments weren't even recognized as a business. You couldn't find it anywhere. The partners loved the fact that the phone was always answered. They knew that somebody was always here. They would just want to talk to Bill.
He loved to network. I remember traveling with him on several of these programs around the country, and we'd be either in Denver or Chicago, and we'd run into people that he knew. And I'm like, we're traveling, and how is he always running? Because he just knew how to network, and that was building our network. That was one key ingredient, was Bill and his personality and how he just got people to love him.
When I came down here, I knew nothing about business. I'll never forget that first meeting I was in with the insurance company, and they said, well, you have a premium that's going to have to go up substantially because you have one employee that is really, using a lot of money every month. And Bill said, you either accommodate that employee or we'll get an insurance from another company. And we did. And several years, Bill kept switching insurance companies because it was more important to accommodate the needs of employees than to bow to an insurance company's demands. And I've often thought about that. Where was his focus? And his focus was on those around him.
I remember one time we were at a trade show together, and before the doors opened up, we were talking, and he said, "Ron, I just want you to know that you might think I have empathy, but I have absolutely none. This is all about resourcefulness. It's all about return on investment." Of course, I knew enough about Bill to know that that wasn't true, because I knew that on the side, he was actually providing free rent to a church in an underdeveloped part of town where he was letting them use his building. And I'd known of several people that he'd been extremely generous with when they were going through difficult times.
He was a leader. He's a true leader. I mean, he loved people. He loved his staff. He loved his partners. And he was just a go-getter. I mean, he was a real entrepreneur. He was always chasing the deal and a new idea.
You know, it was kind of amazing. I don't think we saw how big the network would become over the years. And I give most of that attribute to Bill and Bud Bowers. At the beginning, when we had our user conferences, they had built such relationships over the phone. And then when the partners got here in town, they built relationships, and it just kept growing and growing. And that family environment was created.
For me, Bill was always, maybe ambitious is the word. He always had energy, and he was always looking to do something. As a matter of fact, the first piece of advice he gave me at the end of our first time together was, "Ron, doing something is better than doing nothing." And it's funny, that's a phrase that stuck with me all the time. That was Bill's ethos. Doing something is always better than doing nothing.
And I remember getting in a meeting and Bill shoving a sheet of paper over to the accounting officer and saying, "These people are not to be billed for the foreseeable future." And they said, "What do you mean?" He said, "They're having financial problems right now. And when they make money, I make money. But right now they're struggling. And so there's no bill for these people."
So that was the kind of person Bill was. He would work with you if you worked with him.
The impact that Bill had on my life was profound. He changed my life, my understanding of people, the understanding of myself. He showed me just a whole different world, and I'm so thankful to him for that.
I often feel an accountability to Bill, even though he's not here. We have a wonderful picture of him in the lobby, and I will often look at that picture, and I'll think, I hope that I can live up to the standard that he set, and I hope that I can behave in such a way that if he were here, he would approve of it. He cared a lot about his employees, he cared a lot about his partners, and he cared about the difference that he knew working together we could make in the world around us. So that inspires me to keep going. That vision is still the vision that fires us today.
You have the tools to really make a difference. So I'm asking you to revisit those goals I mentioned in the opening. Let's reach out and through community service, touch 100,000 lives. People that really need it, the nonprofits, the poor, the people that don't have the money to even buy an assessment, let alone have someone help them understand themselves. You know them, and I know them, and I know you're committed, like me, to make that happen.